Greetings and salutations, loyal viewers of this channel. My name is Sean, and today we're going to revisit the New York City subway system. Now, I know a lot of people on the progressive left like to tell you that the subway actually very safe, because when you think about it, there are so many people who ride the subway who don't get crimes committed against them that when you expand the denominator in that way and focus on overall ridership rather than comparing the subway from this year to previous years, you know, like for like, subway crime don't look that big. Well, in this particular subway case, what we have here is a man that was arrested for dousing another passenger with a flammable liquid, then setting that person on fire. But to make matters worse, this isn't the first time he did this year, but he has been released due to bail reform giving him a same-day automatic release. And before you say this isn't real, not bail eligible,
not bail eligible, not a serious crime. I'm not even kidding, guys.
well, just remember, Anna Kasparian, she's already gone over that.
This isn't real. This isn't real. So I looked it up. It's real, guys. It's real.
Now we're going to get into this, but before we do, I want to thank everybody who signed up over on actualjusticewarrior.com/join.
Give me the money. Give me the money. Okay?
And remind you that this show is available in podcast format.
A man is facing charges tonight accused of setting a subway rider on fire, causing significant burns to the victim's body. And police tell us the same suspect was behind a similar attack.
So again, like I said in the open to this video, this is not the first time that this guy did it. So now we have a 23-year-old person who has significant burn injuries. He is expected to recover. But the fact of the matter is, he should have never been put in that position anyway, because when you have somebody who is willing to light people on fire in the New York City subway system, you should treat that with the seriousness that it deserves. Not say, oh, well, he was only doing that to feed his starving family. What an innocent angel, Aladdin. We should let him go, because honestly, fire is the voice of the unheard. And what was he to do besides set another person on fire in the subway in order to feed his starving family? Oh my God, so sad. Economic insecurity. Wow, America, honestly, capitalism so bad.
It happened here on Saturday afternoon at the Houston Street Station platform on the 1 train line. Officers were called here on this holiday weekend for an assault in progress to find 23-year-old perpetrator with his shirt off and burns. Investigators say a homeless man, now identified as Niall Taylor, threw a flammable liquid on the victim for no reason.
So yeah, Memorial Day weekend, New York City subway system. You have a guy, 23 years old. Maybe he was going somewhere to have a good time. Houston Street is downtown. Maybe he was headed downtown for fun. I don't know. Doesn't really matter. But I do like that the news had to clarify that this homeless person who tried to set another man on fire and did so in this particular story had no rational reason for doing so.
Investigators say a homeless man, now identified as Niall Taylor, threw a flammable liquid on the victim for no reason.
Now, I know that's going to be confusing to progressives because they think, oh, homeless man must have been hungry. He must have been trying to eat something when he set this person on fire. But just so you guys know, there are crazy, violent people that are a danger to society, and it has nothing to do with the fact that they're homeless. In fact, likely the fact that they're crazy and violent is what makes them not able to function in society, thus makes them homeless. So, you know, it's kind of got the causality reversed right there. So they set this person on fire, and of course, we're gonna find out through the course of this particular segment that this is not the first time that he did this. But of course, New York doesn't care about that, because God forbid we ever punish the criminal.
Not bail eligible. Not a serious crime.
Now, if you're curious on his criminal history, he has 2 prior felony convictions for forgery and criminal possession of a firearm, and he was sentenced to 1 year in state prison. Now, those particular crimes, to be clear, are not enough to hold somebody for a lengthy period of time, but the issue that I have is not that past criminal history, even though it is alarming. Again, criminal possession of a firearm, convicted of that as a felon, something to be concerned about. It's actually the fact that he did this rather recently. But before we get into exactly how recently his other crime was committed, ABC7 actually had an interview with the victim in this particular case. So we're going to switch it up, go to that, so you can hear from the man himself to explain what he was going through when he was set on fire, and we can possibly understand if it was because he was hungry.
Did the guy ever say anything to you?
No, only look at me weird. He had a cup with a fire. And the train stopped in Houston Street. We thought he go to the door. We thought he's leaving.
Right.
He getting up. He waited for the door to open and he put me the fire.
So look, I understand that this person has an accent, so he may be a little bit difficult to hear, but what he says right there is that the guy actually had the cup on fire, the liquid or whatever, and he ended up dousing him with it as he was leaving the train without saying a word at all. Now, of course, this is a huge problem, and we come to find out through the length of this local news segment that he actually set a woman on fire in addition to this, which just goes to show you how crazy this person was. But even worse, when this guy was arrested, we actually found him to have alcohol and a bunch of different lighters because he's a pyromaniac, and then we get into the recent arrest history, which again is a major problem.
New images Niall Taylor in court listening as prosecutors detailed the 49-year-old's reign of terror in the subway. Two separate incidents 3 months apart. Authorities say in both, Taylor tossed flaming liquid at strangers.
I mean, honestly, I know I have podcast listeners, so you can't really see this, obviously, because you're listening via audio, but really pause the video on that previous frame. I'm going to put it up on screen and see that this guy is walking around with 2 containers of flaming liquid through the subway system. He threw it at a group of 3, so he was attempting to burn 3 random people earlier this year in February, and they weren't able to hold him with any seriousness because they're like, oh, well, he missed. Maybe come back a little bit later when you actually burn a couple of people, and then we'll take it seriously. And now he's being held on a $250,000 bond, but the fact of the matter is, this person with this kind of dangerous behavior in the New York City subway system was arrested when he attempted this before somebody was severely burned, and they just let him go. They said, no big deal, not bail eligible.
Not bail eligible. Not a serious crime.
You are free to go, sir. Please come back to court. We hope we don't have to chase you down, because honestly, if you don't come back to court, there are no consequences for you doing so, and we definitely won't chase you down. Hope you don't do it again, and good luck to everybody in New York City. Again, imagine living in a major metropolitan area where your ability to carry weapons is restricted so severely, where your ability to defend yourself is not only hamstrung by law, but by prosecutors who are suddenly super aggressive when you do so, like District Attorney Alvin Bragg, but this person gets let off easy. This person is considered a victim. This obvious perpetrator, who is a pyromaniac with a history of doing this, was let go up until the point where he victimized you. Now, they interview a bunch of people in the first local news segment that we talked about that say that they don't feel safe in the subway, and I want to cut to that really quickly before I explain why this is so absurd beyond what I've already said.
And took off.
It's horrifying.
Some subway riders like Chloe Leone are on guard when underground.
Hopefully people are traveling in pairs so that they can stay safe. I'm praying for the person who was burned. It's very tragic.
So here we have this woman right here saying, oh, hopefully people will be traveling in pairs because obviously she doesn't feel safe in the subway and she thinks this is a solution. But I will point out that this guy had 2 flaming containers in the surveillance video that we showed. He threw it into a group of 3 back in February, and in this particular instance, he burned 2 individuals. So traveling in pairs is not a solution. But this is somebody's perspective that honestly is not going to touch on the realities of the situation, the decay of the New York City subways, the consequences of bail reform. But when we cut back to the victim, in contrast to this person who says she's praying for the victim, which I understand and I appreciate, not trying to rag on a random person, it's difficult to be interviewed like this, and he says the following:
who's traumatized by what happened, in agonizing pain, and convinced his attacker will strike again.
Yeah, they caught the guy. They will keep him in the prison for a week and they will release him.
So here you have the victim in this particular instance, and again, my heart goes out to him. I'm glad it looks like he's going to make a recovery, although obviously this is a traumatic experience, even for a 23-year-old man, but he's dead on accurate right here. He says that this guy will do it again, and what's going to happen in the city of New York is what always happens, which is they'll hold him for a period of time, and right now they set a $250,000 bond, but in a week or so, when you forgot about it, they'll let him out onto the streets, and he will do it again. And by the way, we don't need to speculate on whether or not not he will do it again, because this is an instance of him doing it again. And apparently he doused another woman and did it again.
In court today, we learned a second person with Patrice, a woman, was also burned, hit with the same liquid.
And in that original instance, he had 2 flaming cans and a bunch of lighters on him as well, because he intended to do it again. You have a pyromaniac in the subway system committing these crimes over and over again, yet the New York City criminal justice system, District Attorney Alvin Bragg, bail reform at the statewide level, let this guy out over and over again. They say he's an innocent angel. He's the victim of our society. What, you want to hold the guy with the 2 flaming containers that's chucking it at random people? What is wrong with you, you absolute racist? You're a dumb idiot for even considering it. And then we have people on the left, and we talked about this a lot, who say, you know what, compared to the previous, total rider population, subway crime very low. Very few people die in the subway when you factor in all the people total who ride the subway. But of course, this is a ridiculous, absurd metric, because when you think about it, what actually is going on in the New York City subway when you compare years in the subway to years in the subway is that we've had more murders in the last 4 years than we did in the previous 15 years, meaning the subway is significantly more dangerous when you compare like for like. But everybody on the left wants to obfuscate this. Everyone on the left wants to say isolated incident and all of that. And to be clear, a guy setting people on fire in the subway is an isolated incident. That's not why we're covering it. Why we're covering it is because of the way that New York City responds to these incidents, because you had every bit of information that you needed to know about this individual in order to hold him because of dangerousness back in February, where he attempted this before.
Now, this isn't the first time Taylor has done this. Detectives say back in February, he threw a lit container of flammable liquid at a group of people standing on the southbound 1 train platform at the West 28th Street station.
But instead of having a judge with the ability to hold somebody like this, New York State continues to be the one state in the union where judges cannot assess dangerousness when deciding whether or not they're going to hold somebody in captivity pre-trial. So you have this individual able to do it again. And guess what? He's going to get a slap on the wrist. He's going to get released. He's not going to be charged in any serious way. They might do a mental health evaluation in order to punt it to mental health court, which is a tactic that we've seen a lot in the city of New York. And he's going to be out on the streets and burning somebody else in the city of New York, because nothing in the system is adequately set up in a way to stop him. There are no consequences for this, so even somebody who's trying to burn somebody on the train ends up getting released same day automatically, or even if they're held on bail, later on it will be adjusted down, because how dare you even consider holding this violent, repeat, dangerous offender in captivity pre-trial, you absolute racist. Now look, the reason I'm getting so animated about this particular case is because it's so obvious. We had such ability to intervene, and yet we refuse to do so. Yet Governor Kathy Hochul refuses to adjust bail reform, so these are the outcomes you're likely to see time and time again. And think about how much safer the city of New York would be if not for these policies that cater to the criminal rather than advocate and support the victims. But you know what? Those are just my thoughts. So let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. If you like this video, show them by leaving a like, subscribe for more content, follow me on the social media, support me via the support links in the description of this video. This has been me talking about the absolute nonsense going on in New York City. Till next time.